So I didn't leave y'all on a cliffhanger. We're starting day 14, actually 15, right? Now I need to recheck this because this book is saying 14, but I did go through the days. So either the book is mistaken or I didn't go through the days properly. So next week I'll do a rundown of recapping of the days. So Jayadratha's been killed yesterday, is that right? Yeah, and so today we start. So what we see is Duryodhana definitely whinges a lot. So here there are people who will praise Duryodhana, but especially here towards the tail end, you really can't praise him because he just complains and complains and complains to everyone that you're not doing a good job. And very often he'll say, I'll go and destroy Arjuna. I don't need you. And interesting that he would say that because he's not able to. And he's actually very, very reliant on other people. Like he was very reliant on Bhishma Pitama, but he didn't show gratitude. He'd complain, you're not doing a good job. And now he's very reliant on Dronacharya, who really is an incredible warrior. But again, no sense of appreciation. And then he even complains to his brothers, complains to Karna that you're not doing enough. Why haven't you all won the war yet? You should have won it for me. And so I think Duryodhana is a perfect example of this whole entitlement that we have, right? Even, and he himself will say, I don't need you, I'll go do it myself, but he can't do it himself. And so at one point, Drona says, yeah, you just keep saying that, but you don't actually do it yourself. So we start with him. We start with Dronacharya fighting. So I think I mentioned Drona makes this vow that until I give you what I have promised you, which is Yudhishthira, I won't take off my armor. So effectively, Drona is fighting through the night, and even when there is a truce called, he's sleeping in his armor so that he can get ready and he can keep fighting. And this is exhausting everyone. It's thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly exhausting everyone. And the other thing we see is Bhim. Already now he's on this road of getting his vow. His vow was to kill the 100 Kauravas, and one by one he does. So like first thing in the morning now already, he goes through 5 of them. And so they always come in a group. To Bhim, they are aware of the vow. They are aware that they are going to be killed by Bhim. And he's destroyed now, I think, 50 of them. So interesting that the others still have the courage to come in front of him. But they always think, we'll go 5 of us together and so we'll be fine. But he just systematically now any one of them comes in front of him, they're not spared. The only one that does seem to get spared is Duryodhana. And that's not because Bhim is sparing him. It's because somebody always comes and rescues him. So Drona, in fact, has rescued Duryodhana from Bhim a few times. And still, that's never acknowledged. It's always, you're not doing enough for me. And you favor Arjuna, and that's why Arjuna is still alive. But, seeing how many times he himself has been rescued by Drona. And then the other person is Drona's son, Ashwatthama, and Kripacharya. They also constantly saving Duryodhana. And so you see that he really does get given the status of king. He really does get protected over and above other people. So that keeps going on. And so now there's this huge event that seems to happen between somebody called Somadatta and Satyaki. And this battle pretty much lasts the whole of day 15. Back and forth, back and forth. And then Somadatta's father comes, his son comes, other people come to help him, and then other people come to help Satyaki. And so a lot of day 15 is around these two characters, Satyaki and Somadatta. But I haven't, and it's, it's saying which arrows they used, and there's a lot of back and forth in terms of dialogue as well. And so similar, Somadatta also says he takes a vow. Pretty much what Arjuna did the day before. Somadatta says he's taking a vow to kill Satyaki or he himself will die. And so once again here you'll see, I don't know if I mentioned this last class, when the Kaurava side takes vows, they're not seeming to live up to it. So Somadatta by the end of day 15 dies by Satyaki, and yet he had taken the vow. So I guess in a way he fulfilled it because he dies. But this power of our speech and also the ability to do something when we know we're doing it from a place of righteousness. So two different things. One, our ability to do things when we know we're doing it from a place of righteousness and it's the correct thing to do, then increases our chances of success. Two, each person's personality strength determines whether they're able to keep their word or not. So something simple like we have the Chinmaya Hal Challenge every January. And sometimes it's a meditation challenge, sometimes it's a gratitude challenge, sometimes it's a give up something, tapas, some tapas, right? And so people will say, I will give up meat for a month. I will meditate for a month. I'll go to the gym every day for a month. So we've said it. Now our ability to make sure we do it is our strength of character. And when we're able to do it with the small things, then we'll find that the strength of our character gives us like that little bit of momentum to be able to do it when it's a hard thing. So something like, let's say somebody asks me, can you record a 5-minute video for da 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 da? Then I say, yes. Then to make sure I remember and do it, because I've said yes. Even if it's a really hectic day and so many other things are going on, there's times when I'll remember, like, I've changed out of my sari, put on my pajamas and be like, oh, it didn't make that video. And then change back into sari, make the video. Then why? Because I said I would do it. It's a small thing. It was maybe somebody's birthday, maybe somebody, usually I don't do birthdays, but sometimes. Or I'm visiting this country and they need a promo video. So make it. And so sometimes it's less, it's not less important, but it's not something that they will know if I did or not. So I'll be speaking to them on the phone and I'll say a prayer for you. Now they won't know if I said it or not. But to make sure that if I've said I'll say a prayer, for me to sit, close my eyes and say the prayer. So the strength of our words is when we do the small ones, the small things that we say we're going to do, we have to do. Right. If I say I'm going to that shop, I'll pick one up for it. Next time I go to that shop, I'm eating something with someone here in the ashram and they say, oh, this is so yummy. And I'll say, easy. Next time I go, I'll pick up one for you as well. Then next time I go, I have to remember and actually pick up one for them. So in small ways, when we keep our word, then when it's a big thing like this, where when I say, I will do this, right? I will exercise every day. I will conscientiously not eat after 7 p.m. I'll be able to do it because have built up the ability of commitment. That's the value here. The value here is commitment and honoring commitment. And so this comes under Satya. So we won't talk much about Satya Kiyan, Somadatta, other than that. Now the hero of today, the hero of day 15 is Ghatotkacha. And so we see him coming in. Do y'all remember who's Ghatotkacha? Ghatotkacha is Bhim's son, who was born to the Rakshasi Hidambi, who they met in the forest. So when that house got burnt down, the house of blacks, and they escaped and they were in the forest the first time, then Hidambi saves the Pandavas from her brother and falls in love with Bhim. And they have a child called Ghatotkacha. So he's the oldest of all the 5 Pandava kids. Very, very, very loved. So Hidambi is fighting with Ashwatthama. So Ashwatthama also features quite a bit in day 15. Ashwatthama starts featuring quite a bit from now onwards in the war. Who is Ashwatthama? Drona's son. Drona is the teacher. Drona's son is Ashwatthama. And so he's being Drona's son, and Drona definitely favored him. Drona has a very soft spot for his own son. Even though he has a soft spot for Arjuna and Yudhishthira and all the Pandavas, for his own son, there was so much attachment. So remember, why is he fighting on the Kaurava side? Because at one point in day 15, Drona curses that he has to be fighting on the Kaurava side. He literally puts his hands to his, like that. What do they call that? Head slap? What did that? Face bump? Like, what horrible thing did I do in my last life that I have to be fighting for this Duryodhana? Like, literally, that's what he does. Several times over, but that he actually says it in that many words. It's nothing that he did last life. This also is true for so many of us. It's not that what we are facing is a consequence of something terrible we did last life. Why is Drona on the Kaurava side? It's what he did this life. And what did he do? He wanted his son to have wealth. Drona is from a Brahmana tradition. From a Brahmana tradition, they didn't necessarily have a steady flow of income. In those days, they would work and people would give what they wanted to give. And sometimes that's not a lot. Sometimes it is a lot. But Drona didn't seem to have that luck, so to say, with fortune. And so the story is that Ashwatthama would want milk and the wife would give flour mixed with water. Until one day he tasted actual milk. And he felt so cheated. And what have you been giving me? Because milk tastes so sweet and milk is so filling. Not in today's world, huh? I don't know what we've done to milk in today's world, but and I really think it depends what we've grown up with. Because when that one time I went to Russia and they gave me fresh milk, you can smell the cow when you're drinking the milk. It's an interesting experience. We're so used to drinking this chemically changed, homogenized, treated milk. So, but if you think back, then this was a staple diet. This was staple. In all rural areas, milk was source of nutrition, right? and well-being. So even in Ayurveda, it's considered well-being. So Drona felt horrible that he couldn't give Ashwatthama more. And any parent would, right? We can't fault Drona for wanting to give his child more. But what he did was he stopped living true to a Brahmin and he joined Hastinapur and under Bhishma Pitama, and started living like a Kshatriya. Now, if he had just taught them, that would have also been fine because Brahmanas teach. He would have still been true to his dharma. But he wanted to get revenge on Drupada, if y'all remember that whole story. And so he declared war. And that's where he deviated from Brahmana dharma and started adopting Kshatriya characteristics of wanting revenge, of wanting power. If he had worked for the castle, the son would have gotten whatever he had gotten. But he wasn't happy with that. He wanted the power. So wanting power is a different personality trait. It doesn't suit everyone because it didn't suit Drona. Some personalities are more soft at heart. And so, to teach, to encourage, to nurture. And then what made him want power? Bitterness. And because bitterness made him want power, it's not a nice wanting of power, and it's not a responsible, it's not a graceful. So whereas somebody else's personality type, where they want to be the best and they want to be better than what they were last were, and they want to conquer and they want to be able to like set up a system so that the country is more effective. And then that wanting of power is beautiful. So because it organizes and it structures and it's true to who they are. And you can see that people will naturally gravitate also, like leadership qualities, because there's lots of people who don't know what to do or don't want responsibility. And so they like, if you say it, we'll do it. You just tell us what to do. And so they're very happy to have this person there. There's a looking up to. So Drona, because of attachment to Ashwatthama, became resentful that he didn't have this position to be able to give him Ashwatthama what he wanted. And so joined at that point it wasn't the Kauravas, joined Hastinapur, but now it's being true to Hastinapur now means being on the Kaurava side. And to be fair to him, he did have love for all his students. So it's not like he hated Duryodhana. He taught them as well as he taught the Pandavas. So he had affection for both. But he was very clear that what they were doing is wrong. During the game of dice, very clear that what they were doing was wrong. Very clear that they were cheating. Never mind even what they did to Draupadi. Just the fact that you are cheating, already not good. That doesn't say anything. Why? This need for power. A lot of times people will say Drona was on the Pandava, Kaurava side because he had eaten their salt and he was obliged to them. Yes, but that's not the main reason. Because one of the Kaurava brothers supports. What was his name? Uluk. Yoyotsu? No. Uluk something. Hey, I forgot his name. But he's one of the brothers. So, of course, he's eaten the food also. He's also eaten the salt. And during the game of dice, he says, what you're doing is wrong. So it's not that they couldn't have said it, just because what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. And you, in fact, support the people who are feeding you to do the right thing. But he doesn't. And it's not obligation. It's this need to hold on to power. And when Bhishma falls and Drona is given the head of the army, you see that it means a lot to him to have that position means a lot to him. And because he's been given that position of power, constantly telling, I'll fight for you. I will do this for you, so that he can maintain position of power. And so sometimes we need to be very mindful and aware of the thing that's driving us, right? So easy to think that it's loyalty that's driving, but it's not loyalty that's driving. It's wanting power that's driving. Okay, so Ashwatthama, being Drona's favorite, had learned lots from Drona, possibly more than all the other students. I think I mentioned this. Arjuna used to stay back because after the class was over, Drona used to teach Ashwatthama a little bit more that he didn't teach everyone else. So Ashwatthama knew pretty much as Drona knew. He wasn't as proficient as Arjuna. Nobody's as proficient as Arjuna because Arjuna practiced all through the night. Arjuna didn't sleep because he was enjoying practicing so much. Most people like to sleep. It's just a normal thing. Everybody else went up to sleep. Arjuna practiced. So Arjuna's caliber is going to be a little bit more. And the fact that he didn't need to sleep was also really awesome. Because the next day he functioned just fine. He just kept practicing. It's one of his names. The fact that he doesn't need to sleep is one of his names. Now, don't ask me which names. Okay, so now there's a conversation. So Karna again comes to fight. So Ashwatthama is fighting Ghatotkacha, and then somebody else comes to help him to fight Ghatotkacha, and then Karna comes again. Karna makes all these claims. I will destroy by the end of the day. You are nothing. Very insulting. To hear how Karna talks now is so interesting because just prior to the war, we met such a sweet, mature Karna. But if you hear how he talks now on the battlefield, he's so, what's the word, crass. It's so unrefined. It's so arrogant. So arrogant. So he says a whole lot of rubbish to Ghatotkacha. And Ghatotkacha is a kid. Sure, he's a Rakshasa, which makes him about 3 stories high. So you're not looking at him as a kid. So, okay, I give you that. He doesn't look like a kid. He's huge. And he's half Rakshasa, half Pandava. But he still has Rakshasa qualities. And so now when you see how Ghatotkacha fights, it is something really phenomenal. So the first person that we praised extensively for fighting was Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu was so amazing as a warrior. And now you'll see with Ghatotkacha. Now they used Rakshasic weaponry is little bit different to normal weaponry because they use Maya, meaning they use delusion. But normal warriors seem to be able to do this too. Because remember Drona, when he wanted to capture Yudhishthira, he shot an arrow to make everyone sleep. So how cool is that? Even cooler was that Satyaki didn't fall asleep. Satyaki is Arjuna's student. They knew how not to sleep. Ghatotkacha is constantly becoming different things. So you see him as Ghatotkacha, then he's one mountain. Why does he become a mountain? He becomes a mountain quite a few times because you can't kill a mountain. This is a really cool loophole in the war. He just suddenly becomes this huge mountain while everyone's fighting. So all these arrows are shot at him and nothing happens because he's a mountain. But Ashwatthama knew the counter arrow. So he shot the counter arrow and then he became Ghatotkacha again. Then he would become like 100 Ghatotkacha's. And you don't know which is the real one. So you're shooting and it goes through them because they're not real Ghatotkacha's. It really sounded like one of those sci-fi movies, or one of those like Harry Potter movies when I was reading this scene, especially when Ghatotkacha is fighting. And even just the description of his chariot is something incredible. It's quite ferocious. It has so many wheels and it's all black and it has like fire blazing from it. And so he's our hero for today. Day 15, Ghatotkacha is our hero. So they are fighting. Then Bhim and Karna get into a fight. And Karna keeps trying to fight with Arjuna, and Arjuna comes to help Bhim at one point here. And Karna and Arjuna were almost going to get into a duel. But again, Ashwatthama comes and distracts Arjuna, and Bhim is left with Karna. And Karna initially, this has happened now a few times, Karna underestimates how good a fighter Bhim is. So Bhim is this incredibly versatile fighter. From everyone here, you'll see. So Karna is fighting with Bhim and breaks his bow and arrow. So then he starts fighting with his sword. Then Karna destroys the sword. So Bhim takes out his mace and starts fighting with the mace. Then something happens with the mace also. No problem. Bhim goes running up and uses his hands. Like, it just doesn't matter. We saw this with Abhimanyu also, right? Abhimanyu just keeps taking out. But nobody's quite as he takes up anything that's lying on the floor. The wheel that's lying on the floor, the stone that's lying on the floor, other dead bodies lying on the floor. He takes them, he whirls them around like a weapon and throws them at the person fighting. Like, Bhim is the most, what's the word? Ferocious? Resourceful for sure. Resourceful, definitely. But I mean, I guess I'm not into fighting as much, but Bhim is really like, he runs. And so he almost destroys Karna, and Karna backs up, which is important to note. Because when we praise Karna as a fighter, and he's an amazing fighter, we forget that he's been defeated. He's been defeated by Arjuna several times, but he's been defeated by Bhim now for the second time in this war itself. So there are people he defeats, but there's times when he gets defeated as well. Okay, so now, so we're nearing the end of Drona. And so sometimes the star shines brightest before it burns out. And suddenly Drona decides, this is it. I've had enough. Because Duryodhana did one of his rants again about how, you're supposed to be good, but if you were really good, then we would have won the war by now. You're still fighting. You're not so good. Maybe you've become old. Like, seriously insulting also when Drona, like, hey, how do you tell your guru you've become old now? That's why everybody else is winning. And like I said, he's relying on Drona to win the battle for him. But this is the kind of things he says. And, it was a mistake that we hired you in the first place to be our teacher. All. Because now I'm stuck with you. Like, he makes it sound this. And then, of course, 2 minutes later, he's begging, please help me. Please, I need to beat the Pandavas. You're the only one who can help me. So, little bit of split personality that Duryodhana seems to have. But I mean, it is a war, so emotions are high. It's just that he doesn't have a good filter. And he doesn't realize how much of, when our words have an impact on other people. And sometimes we are quite oblivious to how much of an impact our words have on other people. I don't know if Duryodhana was oblivious because he's obviously saying it for it to have an impact. But I don't think he understood the extent of the impact words have. So now when someone like Bhishma Pitama would hear all this from Duryodhana, Bhishma Pitama had zero insecurities. And so he heard it and he'd feel like, irritated. But Drona has insecurities. So when he hears it, it feeds those insecurities. And it plays on his mind. And so he decides, I'm going to do the very best I can and really show him my worth. Not that he hasn't already, because he's already set up those vyuhas and there. So at Bhishma Pitama fell on day 11. We're on day 15. So what he does is he storms into the battlefield and he kills a ridiculous amount of people. But two that are noteworthy. Do you remember the kingdom of Virat that they hid in for the 1 year of incognito? So King Virat's fighting on the Pandava side. And Drupada. Drupada is Drona's friend. They were friends in school. And then Drona went to Drupada for the milk, money, but milk effectively for Ashwatthama. And Drona said, you were Brahmana, ask, don't demand, which was a fair comment. But the way we say things sometimes is far more important than what we say. And Drupada said it very condescending, very belittling, insulting. And Drona got insulted. And that's when he decided he will get back at Drupada, and that's why he declared that war against Drupada's kingdom. And then at the end, when he won Drupada's kingdom, Arjuna won Drupada's kingdom, Drona said, never mind, let's be friends. You can't insult someone so royally and then say, let's be friends. So Drupada had Drishtadyumna for the sole purpose of killing Drona. But he is also fighting on the battle. So Drupada and Virat were fighting against Dronacharya. And Dronacharya takes out a celestial weapon and cuts their heads off their body. Like this. The fact that he can is phenomenal. Because Drupada is a good warrior on his own right. But this really shows Drona's skill and power. But he used a celestial weapon, which is something that you don't use ordinarily. You have to think 2-3 times before using these weapons because they're so powerful and they're so charged and they have ramifications, right? So like in today's world, if you use atomic power, it has ramifications. Or if you use radiation, there's side effects. So he used these very, very powerful weapons. And Drishtadyumna sees this because that's his father that's being shot down right there in front of him in the war. And he's furious. And then he kills a few others and he kills Drishtadyumna's son as well. So Drishtadyumna has just seen his father and his son die within a span of an hour. And Bhim comes up to Drishtadyumna and says, how can you just stand here and watch this? And you were born for the sole purpose of destroying Dronacharya, so what are you doing? Now, it's not that he didn't try. So Bhim is also a little bit, Bhim is Bhim. But Drona is on this war path, which is nobody can get to him. Just nobody is able to get near him. He's like this man possessed. And maybe, like I said, maybe it had to be because it was Drona's time coming up very, very soon. And all this fighting is going on. While Drona is causing havoc, Ghatotkacha is one of the ones who are able to save the Pandava army. So Drona is on this destruction path, and Arjuna is fighting, not that he's not, but the only other person that makes a significant dent, actually, there's always Bhim. Bhim is always making a dent. I think this whole 18 days, Bhim is truly the one that is the most consistent, the most effective, and the most resourceful. Bhim is always, always in top form. There isn't a moment where Bhim is resting. And Ghatotkacha. And so Ghatotkacha is running havoc, and he's there. So he's fighting Dronacharya at one point. And he's able to hold his own in front of Dronacharya. So Ghatotkacha fought against Ashwatthama, was able to hold his own. He's fought against Karna. He's been able to hold his own against Karna. Karna couldn't defeat Ghatotkacha. He's fighting Dronacharya, and he's been able to hold. So Ghatotkacha is pretty impressive to be, and very often he's fighting 4 of them or 5 of them at the same time, similar to Abhimanyu, but within it, the whole army being available. So Krishna comes. Krishna tells Arjuna that. So sorry, Karna is also on the battlefield. This is kind of happens. This kind of happens very close to each other. Drona's story and Ghatotkacha's story happens almost like parallelly, different points in the battle. So Karna was there fighting with Ghatotkacha. Drona is also fighting. Ghatotkacha gets involved in that as well. And both of them are in full form. Both meaning Karna is in full form, Drona is in full form. And Krishna tells Arjuna, I think the only person who is going to be able to fight as effectively as you is Ghatotkacha. So we should tell him to go and fight Karna. And Arjuna says, but why? I can go. Mm-hmm. And Krishna says, no, he still has the Shakti. The Shakti is the weapon given to Karna by Indra Devata when he pulled up his armor. Right? Indra had taken the armor from Karna and then felt horrible because literally he had to remove his skin. And so moved by that, he said, ask me anything. And Karna asked for Shakti. And he said, you can use it once. And he also said, it will kill whoever you throw it at. Now, all these weapons have counters. So if you have it and you throw it, it doesn't necessarily kill. Because if the other person knows the counter, they defend themselves. But Indra's boon was, you can use it once, only once, and it will kill whoever you throw it at. So Karna was saving this for Arjuna. But it's Indra's arrow. Indra is Arjuna's father. Interesting that he thought it would work against Arjuna. And this is where sometimes delusion is an interesting thing. So, although Indra did have a very soft moment with him. Yeah, but so Shakti was there. So Arjuna tells Krishna, I can deal with Shakti. Because Arjuna knows the counter. And Arjuna feels that's my father's arrow. So, and Krishna says no. And Arjuna is about to answer when he remembers the last time he didn't listen to Krishna, Abhimanyu died. And so he doesn't argue. And it's interesting because this time listening to Krishna, Ghatotkacha is going to die. We just never know. We just never know how things are going to play out. So they call Ghatotkacha. Now Ghatotkacha has this power that when Bhim thinks of him, he appears in front of me. It's a very cool power. Wherever he is on this planet, Bhim has to just think about him and he will turn up in front of Bhim. And this is extended to the other Pandavas as well. So in the battlefield, I mean, they're all there in the battlefield. So you could scream really loud and get Ghatotkacha's attention. But you know, there's a lot happening. So Arjuna summons him by just thinking of him. And in the middle of the battlefield, Ghatotkacha comes in front of Krishna and Arjuna. And Krishna tells Ghatotkacha that you are going to be our greatest weapon of today. And your prowess and your skill is what's going to help the Pandavas win this war. And I'm charging you to fight Karna and make it such a horrendous fight that he has no choice left. So Krishna is very clear. Krishna is super duper clear in his instructions. And to some extent, Ghatotkacha knows what this instruction is. It's not like he's being tricked. And Ghatotkacha is so proud that he's being given this opportunity. He feels so honored and privileged that as Bhim's son, as a Pandava, he will have his place in this battle. I mean, they never treated him like a Rakshasa. They treated him like every other kid. He was extremely affectionate. Abhimanyu was extremely affectionate. Ghatotkacha was extremely affectionate. And they were all affectionate back to him. But there's so much joy. And this is so similar to Abhimanyu. When Abhimanyu goes into that Chakravyuh, there's this sense of purpose. And there's this sense of rising to an opportunity. And so Ghatotkacha fights this incredible fight. And he destroys so much of the Kaurava army that the soldiers are crying and running until everyone's begging Karna, use Shakti. And Karna doesn't want to because he wants to use Shakti on Arjuna. Yeah. Arjuna is far away on the battlefield, and it's Ghatotkacha in the center of the battlefield, with Drona running havoc here, and Karna running havoc, and Ghatotkacha running more havoc than both of them put together, that the Kauravas are crying. Duryodhana is crying, Shakuni is crying, Karna is crying. And finally, Karna takes out Shakti and he cries because he knows now there's no hope of him surviving this war. And him using Shakti now to kill Ghatotkacha, he's going to die for sure. He knew this. Because if you remember, when Kunti spoke to him, he says very clearly, I know I will be killed by Arjuna in the battle. With Krishna by Arjuna's side, Arjuna will definitely win. He said it so clearly. But here, when it comes time to throw this weapon on Ghatotkacha and realizing that that's his last power gone, he's devastated. And so there's this incredible strength in Karna, which isn't consistent. And maybe that's true for all of us. There's moments where we can be so brave, and then there's moments where we really falter, when we really wish that things weren't what they are. And that weakness that comes into us, one, it's natural, but two, it's when we're not true to ourselves. And Karna wasn't being true to himself. Even when he speaks badly to Ghatotkacha, that's his nephew now. He knows Ghatotkacha is his nephew. And he knows what he's saying is so distasteful. It's not good. You know, we call it sportsmanship when people are playing. You know, you just, certain things are not good sportsmanship. When what's that's sledging. It's not the right way to win a match. Hey, win on skill and give respect to the other person that they also have skill. Right? If their skill's better than yours, so be it. If my skill's better than theirs, so be it. And have that respect for the sports, have that respect for the person. In warfare too. And so you see, when Bhishma Pitama used to fight, when he fought Abhimanyu, he'd praise Abhimanyu while they were fighting. It was an amazing fight. He didn't compromise on his fighting, but he would praise the opponent that was a skilled shot. And then he did another, he fought. But here to just insult, and the insults are like not even appropriate to the fighting. Like when he fought with Bhim, he said, Bhim, you should have stayed a cook. You should have only picked up your ladles. You didn't have to pick up your gada. This is not like that 1 year he was in hiding, he cooked. It was because it was good cover for him. At least he was well fed. But the insults are also very belittling, like not sportsmanship like. Okay, so coming back to Ghatotkacha. Ghatotkacha has fulfilled Krishna's desire of holding center stage in this battle. And then he sees Karna take out Shakti. He knows. He knows. This is what he's been fighting for. He's been fighting so that Shakti is used. And look at his presence of mind. He grows. Rakshasas can grow. Before Shakti is fired, he grows to the biggest he can be. And then once Shakti is fired and it pierces him, he falls on the Kaurava side. So that even in his death, He's taken so many lives on Kaurava side. Like, look at that presence of mind. And so look at Karna, who knew what he's doing is wrong, was given a choice to have the kingdom, and faltering in his steadfastness, in his self-strength, in his faith. And look at Ghatotkacha. He's facing death. In fact, Karna's is not today. Ghatotkacha knows he's facing death now. There's no wavering in his mind. There is, I'm doing something, I'm going to do it really well till my last second. That incredible efficiency and clear. Conscience is clear. Purpose is clear. He's still joyful that he got to serve in the Pandava cause. He's still joyful that when Yudhishthira sits on the throne, he would have played his bit in putting Yudhishthira on the throne. But Ghatotkacha falling is such a huge loss. Another really beautiful, beautiful soul. Innocent, pure, and joyful. Their personalities, both Abhimanyu and Ghatotkacha, their personalities are so likable. They're people that you want to be friends with. And so, an incredible loss. And Arjuna is horrified watching this, because Arjuna suddenly realizes what's happened. Krishna, when Ghatotkacha falls, cheers and hugs Arjuna, which confuses Arjuna even more. Like, how can you be happy that Ghatotkacha has fallen? Like, he's our son. How can you? And Krishna replies, don't you see he's saved you? Arjuna didn't want to be saved. And this is interesting because Abhimanyu wasn't sacrificed. No, nobody deliberately sent Abhimanyu to his death. They sent him to his death, but they didn't know. It was so many variables. And Jayadratha had a boon, and then there was the Chakravyu, and he only knew how to get in, he didn't know how to get out. There were so many variables. But in Ghatotkacha, he was sacrificed. He was sent so that Shakti would be used on him. And he's the only person that Shakti would have been used on, because he was a formidable opponent. Anyone else? No, some other weapon would have worked. But when you hear the fight that goes on with Ghatotkacha, I'm telling you, it's too cool. There's this one arrow that Ghatotkacha uses where a cloud forms on top of your head, Karna's head, and stones fall. Like, how cool is that? I mean, it's not cool. I mean, in a battle, it's cool. Not in real life, it's cool. Like, when I was reading this section of what Ghatotkacha does, it's really, really, really phenomenal. And arrows with snakes and all of that we see even in the Ramayana. But here these ones are. And thousands and thousands and thousands of arrows get used between the two of them. So Yudhishthira sees this. Yudhishthira sees Ghatotkacha, and Yudhishthira, like I said, is very soft. He's already lost Abhimanyu. He does not want to lose anybody. The more they lost Drupada in the morning. Drupada is Draupadi's father, so that's their father-in-law. They have never had a father. Pandu died when they were very young, so they really looked at Drupada like a fatherly figure because the Thrashtra wasn't much of a fatherly figure to them. And so losing Drupada was painful for Yudhishthira already in the morning, and now you're losing Ghatotkacha. And so something comes into Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira looks at Bhim because Bhim, of course, would be devastated that Ghatotkacha is his son. Although Bhim's presence of mind in a battlefield is unparalleled. He did not break down. We on the battlefield. We have to really give Bhim credit. Really, this 18 days, Bhim is the truest form of a Kshatriya that you'll see, where he does not falter. He does not falter in Kshatriya Dharma, or in his resolve, or in his gusto. Yudhishthira tells Bhim, Arjuna is useless. He has let Ghatotkacha die. Karna is still alive. Drona is still alive. What is Arjuna doing? The two of us are going and we're going to go kill them. This is serious now for Yudhishthira to say this. So, it's also fueled by grief. If you remember when Abhimanyu fell, the anger that Yudhishthira feels for an innocent, beautiful soul to be sacrificed it's very real. And so here too, Ghatotkacha was very dear. And you know, Ghatotkacha being the firstborns always have a little bit of a softer spot in the whole family. The whole family might be not directly your firstborn, but the firstborn in the family holds a softer spot in everyone's heart. And so Ghatotkacha definitely held that in Yudhishthira's heart. And Vedavyasa comes. In the middle of all of this happening, Vedavyasa comes to Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira immediately jumps off chariot, starts Shashtanga Namaskar. And Vedavyasa tells Yudhishthira, basically, calm down. I know you're angry, but this was Ghatotkacha's destiny. This war, a lot of things are already written. And now we're just watching them play out. And if Ghatotkacha did not receive, use, what's the word? Imbibe Shakti, then it would have been used on Arjuna. And that's something we could not have afforded. I was thinking about this. And so Yudhishthira comes down. Do you know how Yudhishthira would have felt? Either you lose Ghatotkacha or you lose Arjuna. If one had to choose, how do you choose? If Arjuna had to choose, Arjuna would have chosen himself, which is why Krishna doesn't let Arjuna choose. Yudhishthira would never have been able to choose between the two. Ghatotkacha chose. He knew what he was doing. He knew he was being sacrificed. I was wondering why. I was wondering, why is it okay? that Ghatotkacha is sacrificed. Because, we're told by spiritual masters that when Krishna does something, it's correct. And we may not understand it. So we have to try and understand it. Instead of fault it, we have to try and understand. And then that made me think actually, Arjuna is not the best warrior on the field. Because we're going to be seeing Drona is plenty capable, but okay, on the other side. So let's not count Kaurava side soldiers. Let's count Pandava side soldiers. Abhimanyu was an amazing, as good as Arjuna. Some people said better than Arjuna and Krishna put together. That was Abhimanyu. How come Abhimanyu wasn't the instrument? We see here Ghatotkacha again, as good as Arjuna. Krishna himself is saying that the only person other than Arjuna was Ghatotkacha who would have been able to handle this. And then Satyaki. We saw Satyaki just this last day of the war, where he also went through the 3 vyuhas. He also ran havoc in the Kaurava army. He's also fought with all of them and won, right? Or held his own. How come only Arjuna that has this place, this softness? Is the Lord partial? He can't be. He can't be partial. And we see this maybe in Ramayana more than the Mahabharata, that the Lord's not partial, right? Because we see that Ram says he'll even give Ravana the kingdom of Ayodhya if Ravana had apologized. And so that complete unpartialness. But here we don't necessarily, it's already Treta Yuga. Dharma has already declined substantially. And so this is where we see the laws of karma coming in. If we look at Ghatotkacha's life after the war would have been over, it would have been very non-eventful. Which is not a bad thing. But it just it's not what he'd want. He would have wanted that he do this glorious thing, then live just years and years of ordinary. Being a Rakshasa, being a warrior, this is where they feel they're getting to use their skills. They're getting to do something that's meaningful. Whereas after the war, Arjuna has to do quite a bit. Abhimanyu, I'm not so sure. Would Abhimanyu have been able to do lots? I suspect so. But not sure what his karmas are, that he wasn't used as the instrument. But after the war, a lot of relationships have to get maintained through kingdoms. And it was one of Arjuna's biggest talents. Arjuna was their foreign minister, foreign affairs minister, Pandava's foreign affairs minister. He was. He went traveling the most, right? All through the years. So many wives he had, but even so many relationships that he created with so many different kingdoms. And now, post the war, you need that. You need to bring everyone back together. You need to have harmony of relationships. You need to be able to have that diplomatic skill of negotiating so that now peace is sustained, and also they have to rebuild up Hastinapur because they've used up all the wealth in this battle. And so Arjuna's skills very much needed after this war. Ghatotkacha would definitely not have been able to do that. Like I said, Abhimanyu, I'm not so sure why, what. And I guess we only told so much of the story that we can piece things together. But that's one of the reasons. The other reason is Arjuna is Nara, Krishna is Narayana. And they've come as a team. They both incarnated as a team to fulfill the purpose of winning this war. And so it's like if you have a play, then you allocated that role. And then everything said and done, even though it's horrendous for Yudhishthira to deal with the death of Abhimanyu and Ghatotkacha, I think it would have been worse to deal with the death of Arjuna. Because for as long as the 5 Pandavas are united, they are strong. Their strength is in their unity. And Arjuna is quite critical in holding these 5 Pandavas together. All of them have so much love for each other, but Arjuna definitely holds a special place in each of the Pandavas' hearts. And so it's that unity that Arjuna couldn't be sacrificed. But we don't always get to choose. Because, like I said, Arjuna didn't disagree with Krishna. Because last time, and so out of fear, he didn't disagree with Krishna. How would he know? Maybe he should have known, but he didn't realize. He didn't realize this was going to be the outcome because he's devastated. And so now the responsibility on Arjuna to win this war is immense. And that's the other thing. Arjuna could hold this responsibility, that it's your job to win the war. Although Abhimanyu did an amazing job of holding responsibility, and so did Ghatotkacha. But maybe the whole war would have been too much of a burden. So day 15, we lose Ghatotkacha. But he takes a lot of people with him, even some very big names, which I didn't write down all their names. Alamba was one of the ones he took down with him. And we'll pause here. Sarve bhavantu sukhilah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhat bhavet, asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityoma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnam Purnamidachyate Purnasya Purnamadan Purnameva Shishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari